they started out as a very promising day. I was in Mustry Golf Club. There were two friends of mine, and we played 18 holes, and we had a meal, and I was driving, and on our way back, going through Blarney, I said to one of my colleagues, I don't think I've control of this car. So I stopped the car, and very hard to park in Blarney, where it's so narrow. And I got out the car, and I had to grip onto the side of it to try and get around to the passenger seat. And my friend Barry Conley, he started taking over from there, and it was after 6 o'clock, so he rang South Dock. He rang South Dock anyway, and he got a bit uptight because they wanted to know what I had for my breakfast, so I was going to have my dinner. Nothing related to my medical condition. So he got a bit hit up anyway. He just turned off the phone, and he said, we'll drive to Fermoy. And then drove to Fermoy. And I can remember this all right, you know, a bit vaguely. And I went to my doctor at the time, and he saw me. He was going out that night, and I was sitting in the car, and he came out, and my hand was up like this. He said, I think you've touch of a stroke, and better go into COH. So backtracked and down to Cork, and on the way back, going through Watergrass Hill, I can remember, I could lift my hand the same as normal, even though it had been, you know, affected before that. And I said, what then? We'll turn back. But anyway, we proceeded into Cork. And when I got into COH, anyway, two guys had to get my wheelchair because I wasn't able to walk, and were brought into A&E. And that was the problem. We were left there, and in the meantime, the two guys were trying to give them details. And as the time went on, I got a bit worse. And I had contacted my wife Kay and my eldest daughter Jane, and they came up from Fermoy. And I say a good 3/4 of an hour or an hour there in A&E.
Yes, yeah.
So there was a delay factor. Then the Barry Conley, my friend, he was kicking up a racket. This man needs to get attention and all that. And there was a door closed, and there was no handle on it, so I had to bang on the door to try and get attention. Eventually I was brought into a cubicle, and I don't remember too much after that.
Sure.
I was even asking my daughter yesterday, what did she remember of my condition at that stage, and they said they left about 1 o'clock, and at some stage later on they took me down to have some x-rays. That I don't really remember really.
Sure, yeah.
And then I went back to the cubicle and I slept. And next morning then they got me a bed. So that's where the starter was.
Sure.
And about the following day, I think, Dr. O'Connor, who was my geriatrician, at that stage I didn't know what a geriatrician was for.
Sure.
But I was told I was over 65, and I was in that category. And he came in to me and he said, now, Pat, we've medically stabilised you. And the truest words he ever said then, he said, it's up to yourself and the physio. And at that stage now, like my leg was totally stiff, couldn't move it. My left hand was the same, and a bit of an impediment to my speech.
Sure, yeah.
But I couldn't move in the bed, I couldn't turn, and it was like my stick here that was just one solid piece.
Sure.
And I wasn't able to move. They were to move me in the bed.
Can I ask about how did you feel, and can you remember how you felt?
Well, I suppose things go through your mind.
Sure, yeah.
You're out playing golf one stage,
Sure.
and now you're lying in the bed, not knowing what's the future for you. You know?
Sure.
I spent 6 weeks there.
Yes, yeah.
And the physio I used to have it in the morning, just before lunch, just over the window. I had no control over, but they were trying to get me to move back and forth to get some movement in my legs.
Yes.
And then after lunch, I'd go out there to the downstairs to the gym, and I'd have over an hour physio. And I had a marvellous physio.
Yes. Yeah.
She was great.
Yeah.
And I can remember, over time I was there for 6 weeks, but there were about 6 or 7 physios there.
Mm-hmm.
And the after lunch people would have to go down there. Next thing you hear, Mr. Murphy won't come down today, he's not feeling okay now to it. Mr. McCarthy, yeah, he won't be there either. And you could see in the physios their frustration.
Yes.
They were there to help.
Yes.
But I was there every day.
Yeah.
And Sinead was my physio, and she'd say, "No, Pat, you're after doing a good bit of work. At that stage, a very little movement, maybe on the bench, and she want to take a rest." No, I said, "We'll do a bit more. We'll keep going."
Yeah.
And that attitude, I say, was important.
Yeah.
In recovery, you have to be very positive. And I've always said this to the students when I talk to them.
Yeah.
That was very important to try and get the person in the right mood to undertake this ordeal ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't skip any of the sessions, so?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. And it involves a whole lot of things, like trying to get movement and walking, and from the wheelchair to slide onto the bench and that. And ultimately what we're trying to do is trying to say, how would you get out from a wheelchair into a chair? This was now maybe well into the 3rd or 4th week.
Sure.
And they got me to transfer anyway onto the bench and that. And then a stage came then, the physio said to, "Well, Kay, bring your car up to the back of the CUH and try and see how you getting in and out of the car." So she brought me out the wheelchair, and with her help with that and direction, I got into the car. Then I got out again.
Mm-hmm.
Then she said to Kay, my wife, "Now, can you get him to go in and into the car?" Because she would normally be doing it later on. So we succeeded in getting in. And when I got in the car, I said to Sinead, "Now," I said, "goodbye, we're going out for a drive." We're off out by the, the city hall.
Was this your idea or Sinead's?
It was mine.
Your idea, yeah.
But I got the shock of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Kay was driving the car. I had no idea where traffic was, where it was coming, no perception about distance. I was horrified.
Yes.
I was shaking at it from it.
Yeah.
It was unreal, to be out in the first time out in this after 3 or 4 weeks, and then meet this traffic. I thought we were in the bumpers,
Sure.
People were going to bang into us. Another weekend, it was a long weekend, and they said, "Would you go home, stay at home for the bank holiday?" I said, "I will." And of course that started a whole lot of more queries, how I was managing the house, the facilities in the house, how to get in and out of steps, and all the difficulties that would face me when I would be eventually, released from hospital.
Sure.
So at that stage then they had one occupational nurses, but therein lies the problem. They talked to me and they gave me very good ideas of what I needed in the hospital. I remember bringing me down to one session there, and they want to know about measuring your bed, the height of it, how you could, they were all small things but very important in their own right.
Yeah.
But they had, the problem about the occupational therapist, I was outside the 20-mile limit of their range. I had to get somebody else from Mallow, instead of having linked in with the Finbars for a couple of weeks. I had to get somebody else from Mallow to inspect the house, what would need to be done. Now, in fairness, Gavin Mallow was top class, but there was this break, it didn't have the continuity, which would be fairly important, because you build up a certain amount of confidence with people,
yes, yeah.
That you've been dealing with, and you respect their views and that as well.
Sure, yeah.
Eventually, after 3 months, that was 6 months of COH and 6 months of Finbars, I was released. And I remember being at home after a day, and we went in to have a shower. And the shower head was like that. My son would give me a hand to have the shower. But of course, your confidence, all of a sudden, I did grip something and cut the shower and pulled the whole thing down, you know.
Sure, yeah.
So we then got on to a crowd in Cork. They came and they modified the shower for us with the usual support and grips and that. And it was the best thing that was done.
Yes. Yeah.
With an inside shower and a shower off the off the kitchen, and they did that as well. So very important that will be put in place before the actual person comes home.
Sure.
Out of the blue, said, "Pat, would you like to drive again?" I said, "Mike, what are you joking me? I mean, trying to put my leg under me." And he said, "Leave it with me." And he got on to an occupational therapist in COH, who I met early on when I had a speech in the bit deformed, you know, after the stroke. And she put me through a whole series of tests. There was a whole lot of blocks thrown out on the table, and there was a model made, and I had to replicate that and put it together again. So I did nearly 99% anyway. And I had to do drawings, and that hand was totally useless.
Sure. And
tried to do my left hand, which I can't draw anyway.
Sure.
But it was all part of the assessment of cognitive abilities at that stage. And she said, "You're okay." And then the great thing about it in COH, they had linked up with driving instructors and a person who specialised in disabled drivers. So he came out to my house and sat down, talked to me, and I said, "Nice, lovely day, in fact." And he was obviously observing me while he was talking. And then he said, after about half an hour, "You know, Pat, we'll go for a drive, it's a nice day." I said, "That'd be grand." And I opened the door, walked out the door anyway, but he said, "You're driving." So I got into the car and had a left-hand accelerator. And obviously he had another brake on his side in case I do any disaster.
Yeah.
But I went outside our own house in Dundee Road, and down the street there was a garbage truck. And I said, "What in the name of God is that here today?" You know, why should it be in the way? Because I found it very difficult to get the comprehension of distance and all that. So I negotiated that. I went out then further on the road, out more in the countryside, and there was a cattle truck parked. And I had to negotiate around that, and then we drove another bit around and got back home, and that was fine. It was an achievement. Even at your own clinic here, there's 2 parking spots outside. The bane of my life is when I arrive, I don't mind people who are disabled parking there, but when people park in these disabilities. And I said even to the parking guy in the town, "Do you ever check out those?" And there is an €80 fine, and that should be enforced. You can't do this, you can't do that. You know, that disrupts the family. So I would say that I try and do as much as I can for myself.
Sure.
Accept help when I need it. Dr. O'Connor was the first person I met. And he did enormous reassurance, help and support, explained everything that had happened and that I have to go through this process and that. And he, at every stage along the line, he was very supportive.
So he explained things to
He
you.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when after that, then I went yourself had referred me to Peter Carney, and I had this murmur in my heart and that, and if I thought he did a superb job, very assuring, very calm, explained everything.
Yes, yeah.
And even when you go into him and you had to check up like that, he would actually record on tape recorder for report for you back,
Sure, yeah.
and everything he was going to say to you, my wife and I heard that as well, you
Sure,
know.
yeah.
So there was no hidden agendas.
Yeah.
And that's reassuring as well, that
Yeah.
you know what is he didn't tell me.
Yeah.
There must be something there. That was all.
So there's none of that kind of
None
stuff.
of-
Yeah.
none of
So it's
that,
just
yeah.
crystal clear.
Very clear,
communication.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been
That's
very
interesting.
fortunate. That
What advice would you give student doctors or junior doctors?
listen.
Yeah.
And I meet medical students
Yes.
in your own clinic every year usually,
Yeah.
and they find it very beneficial. I just talk naturally,
Yeah.
and you see they can read out the textbook, the condition,
Yeah.
but the human side of it,
Yeah.
you know, that's very important that they understand that,
Yes. Yeah.
because patients aren't robots, they are people,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
and people have different reactions.
Mhm.
I might be positive, the next guy could be totally negative.
Yeah.
How you deal with those situations, very important for them.
Yeah.
The clinical part of medicine is important, but the relationship with the patient is very important.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate to touch it with all the medical people I've dealt with,
Yeah.
and the physios and nurses.
Yeah.
They've been absolutely superb.
Yeah.
I think I've been extremely lucky
Yeah.
at all stages. There's nothing hidden away.
Sure.
You're told exactly what what's the present diagnosis,
Sure.
what's the head, and what you have to do, and all that.
Yeah.
I found that they've been very good,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, great.
And it's very important
Yeah.
from the patient's point of view that this is out in the open, and you can benefit by that, and you build up a lot of confidence in
Sure.
the doctors as well,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
all stages
Yeah.
that I've gone through. Yeah.
Great.